more,
Yeah.
so everybody there every day woke up and saw all the other people who lived there getting ready for their physical therapy, getting ready to go to occupational therapy, practicing walking with their walkers down the hallway, and it made them go, oh, I got to get my exercise in too. And so
Yeah.
I think
Motivating
forming this
other
group,
people. Yeah, that's awesome. I
yeah,
love hearing that actually.
and
So yeah,
forming this group, you're doing the same thing. You're helping each other by like, I swam a lap today, or and then I'll go swim too, right?
great. Well, so I usually go around the room and say hello to everybody. Kay, it's great having you. We appreciate you being on here so much. I do that, but today we got a pretty good sized group. And so I'm going to keep it short and sweet on that so we can get through a bunch of what we're doing. I don't have a helper today, so I'm letting everybody in myself and kind of managing it. So if I miss a beat, give me a break, you guys. Give me a pass if you don't mind. Anyway, so we just appreciate everybody so much. It's hard to even describe. I have had a ton of people today contact me, and they all want to make sure that they get the recording. So one thing I want to make sure everybody understands is we do record these meetings so that we can get them out to other stroke survivors, get them out to those people who want to get encouraged, who need the help, and all of that. And so we do record them, and then we send them out to our database. And so that is happening. I've got it recorded right now. So just so everybody understands, that's what's happening. Let's see. I want to make sure I'm getting it. Yeah. And I will continue to watch for more and more people come in as we get going here. But gosh, first of all, thank you guys, all of you, everybody, for being here. We really appreciate it. I thought that Kay had a great question to me today, so I'm going to just address that real quick. We are a group of stroke survivors, and a bunch of us couldn't make it today, as I said, but we usually have anywhere from 15 to 25 folks who are stroke survivors that come on and listen, and we do a lot of different speakers. We have a lot of different people who talk, and so we can learn. As a matter of fact, one of the last questions I'm going to ask today, and then I'll put out an email to everybody, is and I'll just kind of tickle everybody here. What do you guys want coming up? What should we be looking for? What can I help go find so that we can have more good meetings and really important to all of you? So I'll just put that out there. I want you guys to know we appreciate each and every one of you. I see a lot of buddies on here and a lot of people. There's Kim O'Kelly. I haven't seen her in a little bit. How you doing, Kim? And thumbs up she gave me. So anyway, and I told you guys we had a couple of people that said they couldn't make it today, but we'll do the replay. I would like to ask everybody, if you can, when Josh gets through speaking and telling his part, I'm going to ask that people either raise their hand just like this, or there's a way to do it on your Zoom if you want. And that way we can keep in line the questions and answers, and we don't have a bunch of people talking over one another and all that kind of stuff, because as you get a good sized group, that happens a fair amount to us. So I like trying to keep some of that straight if we can. So I'm going to get right into it, you guys, today. So Josh is somebody that I met not too long ago. We've gotten a pretty good friendship, I'd say, started up here. And Josh is a stroke survivor. Excuse me, I gotta keep letting people in here. Josh is a stroke survivor. He's an advocate of whole food, plant-based diet. He's going to educate us on his journey after stroke and the difference our choice in diet can make in recovery. Josh, one more time, buddy. I just wanted to, I don't know if you heard this or not, but I wanted to say that I have gotten a lot of people who have reached out to me who want to make sure they get the recording of this, because it's really important in today's world where we're moving and people are really understanding the importance of it. And so I just want to say thank you, Josh, for coming on here today. And I told Josh that we're gonna keep it pretty low key. People are gonna raise their hands when they want something, and off we go. So thank you, Josh. Go ahead, buddy.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So um, I am from Brooklyn, and I currently live on Long Island in New York. Now, how does a guy from Brooklyn and Long Island get involved with an organization such as yours in Oregon, in Bend, Oregon? And the thing is, I do a lot of research, and I was looking for books that would make a difference for me about surviving after a stroke, or thriving, actually. And the book, Just Say Yes to Life, jumped out at me. And I downloaded a sample onto my Kindle, loved what I was reading, and I bought the book and got in touch with your organization. And it's been a really beautiful match between what I've been up to and what your organization and its members are about. So I come from a family where both my father and father's father had a heart attack at the age of 52. I was 18 years old when I lost my father. Mm. And when we were mourning his passing, our family doctor came to our house and told us that, told my mother and myself and my brother that keep an eye on Josh and Keith, because, and not your Keith, but my brother Keith. Mm-hmm. And when they get into their middle years, just watch them, because they may have inherited that tendency, that I'll just say tendency. And sure enough, as I got into my mid 40s and 50, my cholesterol was rising, my blood pressure was rising, my waist was expanding, and I ended up having a stroke 7 years ago. 2 months later, I had a heart attack, and but it wasn't a bad stroke or heart attack. Is there such a thing as a good heart attack? And I remember driving past this beautiful trail that I love going on, and thinking to myself, will I ever get to be on it again? And I was able to get on it, and I loved it. I did yoga also. I don't consider myself an athlete, but I love being active and doing things that I enjoy. And so, and then 22 months ago, I had a stroke. First one was an ischemic stroke. This one was a hemorrhagic stroke. And it's been tough. I still use a walker to do a lot of walking. I'm doing physical therapy. It's been a struggle. It's been scary sometimes, but I've been really struck by how I rose to the occasion. And a very wise friend and woman told me that these kinds of situations really impact our perspective on life. Now, I'll just say one thing. One thing, yeah, it's a joke. My mouth sometimes does not work well, so bear with me. I'm sure many of you know and have been around people who've been challenged by strokes. So when I was 23 years old, I did a course, a workshop, and the leader of the course talked about the importance of taking on a game worth playing, some game that's bigger than yourself and your own personal interests. And he talked about Gandhi, and he talked about what Dr. Martin Luther King and Mother Teresa. And I thought, this is so great. I want that for myself. But at 23 years old, I had no clue what that would be. as I got older, my father passed away, um, and I had the strokes and heart attacks, I had learned that plant-based nutrition makes a very big difference for all sorts of degenerative conditions, especially heart attacks and strokes. And so I started putting together. Actually, I was so interested in what I learned that I ended up taking a course uh, through Cornell University. I have a certificate in plant-based nutrition. I am not a doctor. I do not prescribe. Um, and what I wanted to do was uh, create events so that friends and people that I may just not even know could participate and learn about plant-based nutrition. Um, and I led a course. I had cooking events, um, and it's just in what I have now is a reading group with about a dozen people, and every week we get together for an hour and a half, and we read a book that we're currently reading out loud. So one person would read it out loud, and then half of the time is the reading, and the other half of the time is um, sharing, asking questions, sharing what we're dealing with, what we're succeeding in, and so that gives you an idea of who I am. And now to talk about plant-based nutrition, um, in what you hear so many different opinions about what works as far as food. It's confusing, and uh, what I've learned through that course is that in the scientific and medical community, there is very little confusion about what's so. They know statistically the rates of different types of health concerns in every uh, country in the world. Um, and those countries that are affluent, like ours, where we eat uh, animal-based products and processed food, have much higher levels of all of these diseases, particularly heart disease, strokes, cancer, diabetes. The list goes on. We know all of us have members of our family who have either succumbed or are struggling with all of these conditions. Um, the countries that are not as affluent or that have a much more plant-based diet, um, the rates are dramatically lower. And in China, there was a study done where in China, they have both communities that are areas of China that are extremely affluent and other areas where they're very rural and poor. And they, many years ago in the 70s, there was a research study. The thing is that they are genetically a very homogeneous group. And so they studied the incidence of diseases in these different areas. And they had thousands of people go, actually 500,000 people went out into the country to take samples of everything they could measure with the people in those different areas. And the fact that they're all genetically the same, they could actually isolate what their lifestyle is and what their food choices are. And the book is called The China Study. Now, there are things that I'm mentioning here. I will be providing Keith with a couple of documents so that you'll get a sense of like the books that I recommend, the documentaries, TED Talks that are good, even organizations that are active in supporting their communities. So much. Hold on. So let's see what else I want to say. So I started moving towards a plant-based diet almost like around 1999. And I also was finding out around that time that I had indeed inherited my family's genetic tendencies for heart disease. I also didn't know that we had strokes as part of that affected me, because on my mother's side, my grandmother's brother Joe had a stroke. And I remember we had all got together one holiday, and I just saw him sitting silently with his fist clenched in his lap, and I had no idea what was going on. I was all 10, but that image still is very clear in my brain.
Mhm.
And I was shocked when I had a stroke 7 years ago. So that's my family. So there's a couple of things. What I love about this way of eating is, although it's contrary to what I grew up with, you might think that, oh, I can never do this. It's a tough transition. I love too many things. I loved everything. I have a raging sweet tooth. I love salt. And so it looked like it was a hard thing to do. The first time I traveled with my family, after learning all about this, we went to my stepdaughter's wedding, and I was sitting next to the father of the groom, and he was paying for the whole pre-wedding dinner, and there was no food that I could eat. And but some astute waiter said, I know what you need. And he brought out this big plate of vegetables that were swimming in oil. Now, oil is not on my list of things I should eat. And I just felt he was spending extra money for me. And so I tried to eat as much as I could. At the end of the dinner, I went upstairs to a B&B that my wife and I were staying at, and I cried. I thought, I am crazy. There's no way I'm going to get this done. Now, the other thing, when I went to a potluck dinner, which is the start of me learning about this, it was a vegan potluck dinner. Who does not know the word vegan? If you could just raise your hand. Vegan means no animal-based foods. And then there's something even a little stricter, which is called a whole food plant-based diet, where what scientists know is that the most potent food for your health is whole food plant-based. And whole food means as close to how it occurs in nature. Now, when I went to listen to this Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, let me unblur my screen here. Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease by Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn. This is on the list that I'll be providing. And when I heard him speak about his diet, I turned to my wife and I said, I hope I never have to consult with him. And I ended up consulting with him, and the miracles happened are amazing. I weighed 170 pounds. I'm 5'3". That's a lot of weight. And I had a waist of 36. My blood, who is aware of like the level of how much cholesterol they have? The hands raised, please. Okay, good. So total cholesterol back in 2000 was 286.
Man.
That's high. My low cholesterol was 186. Now, to keep things simple, it's so 286 is now 108, and the 186 is 70.
Wow.
Now, yeah, and I get regular blood tests that measure at least 86 different measurements in the body, and they're always in range. They may be a little, like a couple of points too much or too little, but they're right on. What else can I say? Yeah, and the LDL, the LDL is, as I said, 186. I weigh, so I weigh now 130. That's 40 pounds that I've lost. I fit into a 32-inch waist. And my wife used to say I had a belly like a bowling ball. And she says that it's like sleeping with a different man. So she could cheat on me, but still know my name. So, so it's just friends that that ended up making the change. Either they did it with urgency, or they just did it gradually. And Keith, I think this is about 10 minutes that I've been talking.
You're doing fine, Josh. But I would love to open it up now to everybody.
Sure.
To ask you specific questions, because everybody's going to have questions. Gunnar, you're up number one. And if anybody has questions, just raise your hand and I'll put you on the list and we'll keep going. So go ahead, Gunnar.
Well, my 2 severe strokes happened 7 years ago on April 1st, not a joke. And shortly thereafter, a couple of years later, I had a heart attack. I had I've got a genetic time bomb in me like my dad had, like his dad had. His dad died at 67, and my dad had a very bad heart attack at 67. And at almost 66, I gave myself one of those good heart attacks in rehab, in the hospital, working out. I had 2 arteries that were clear when I had my strokes several years before that, and they were 90% blocked at that time. And so I had 2 stents put in. Now my triglycerides that had always run around 150 to 200. They should be under 150, but mine were a little bit elevated. But they went to over 600 in a couple of months. And that's what plugged up my arteries. And the same thing happened to my dad. The same thing killed my grandfather. And so I know that's there. So I changed my diet. If it flies or swims and grows in the ground and it's not white, basically, that's my diet. And so, and my triglycerides today are 46. I don't know what yours are. That's the fats in the blood, the triglycerides. I just wanted to ask, because my cholesterol is, my high number is 98 right now. And the low number is even lower than that, of course. And the triglycerides have gone, just dropped out of the bottom. They told me they cannot be too low. You cannot have too low on triglycerides, according to my cardiologist. So I just wanted to ask about your triglycerides, if you know where they're sitting at with your diet.
If they were a concern, I would be able to say, yes, I know. What my doctors focused on was the good cholesterol, the bad cholesterol,
right?
Not the ratio. They didn't even speak about that, but the total HDL, LDL. Are you on meds?
Yes, but almost the lowest dose they have, rosuvastatin, just basic stuff, because the brainstem stroke should have killed me, took out my entire left side. This was 0. Okay.
Yeah.
The occipital lobe stroke at the same time, the occipital lobe stroke took out the vision in my right eye. This is back to 100%.
Wow.
This is a lot of work.
Yeah. I waved at you with my left hand, which was completely dumb.
Right.
Completely numb, I mean.
Yeah, I had no feeling in my fingertips.
Yeah.
Until a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So what the doctors, pardon me, what the doctors that I listen to and the books that we read, there are a couple of things that the communities of people, the individuals who have done incredible in their health, in their regaining health, um, have stayed away from animal protein. And yes, they say certain fish are great, and there are certain animal proteins that are better for you. But what they have found is, and I listen to them because they're, again, I said there are so many different points of view. But for heart disease, they recommend you stay with plant-based nutrition.
Right.
You stay away from any kind of animal protein because they are all equally not great for the body. Processed foods also. And as impossible as it seems to make that change, it's one of the reasons I created the reading group, was so that instead of doing it by myself, I'd have fun in the community, that we would learn together, share recipes, anything, any information that would make a difference. When I talk to you about staying away from meat, what is your response to that?
I eat fish. I eat some raw fish. I live in Hawaii. You think you're
Oh.
far away? And chicken and turkey, things like that. But generally stay away from red meat. And every once in a while, I'll treat myself to a lean, fillet or something like that, just to splurge. But the effects have not been negative for me at this point. I do take something called Vasepa, which is a highly refined fish oil that helps reduce the triglycerides. And that's the most important number they're looking at for me, because the fats that clogged my system and the fact that they were so elevated so quickly, that's like the triggering mechanism in my body.
Yeah.
And you got to know your body.
Everybody's body is different,
Right.
and there are a lot of similarities. And my recommendation is to keep learning as much as you can. Because as I said, when I turned to my wife, I hope I never have to consult with Dr. Esselstyn. And it just, all my friends are shocked by the difference, both how I look and my numbers are just astonishing. Congratulations on what you've been able to accomplish. And I think you'd go much further with your body if you really start cutting down on animal protein and processed foods.
Are there any other questions right away here? I've got something to, I want to just talk about one thing as well, Josh. You talk about your reading groups, right? And what you guys are reading and stuff, and which, by the way, if any of you who are on here want to add in or anything, you're welcome. So, but are you guys only reading about plant-based stuff, or tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, we started out mostly with foods, diets that are good for health, plant-based foods. The Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease was the first book. Then there's a book called The Starch Solution. There's a doctor that refers to human beings as starchivores. And most people don't think starch is good for you, but there are certain starches that are extremely good for you. And the book we're currently reading is by an author named Ocean Robbins, and it's getting it also covers the impact of our food choices on the well-being of the planet, not just ourselves. And we're all living, we are witnesses to incredible, scary changes in the environment. And one of the big contributors is the use of land, farmland, to raise cattle. And it's important that we educate ourselves, because in this world, everything is so woven together, and we impact our way of being impacts the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kim O'Kelly.
Hi, Josh. Thank you so much. So
You're
give
welcome.
us an example. I'm a vegetarian. I haven't eaten meat or chicken or fish for over 30 years.
Yeah.
I would like you to just give an example to everyone. Give us a day of your food. That's one
Okay.
question. And the other is, do you guys share recipes?
Yeah, that's an easy answer. So this morning, the typical morning, we have old-fashioned rolled oats, and we have it with medjool dates, banana. Let's see what else. A plant-based milk like almond milk or soy milk, and what else? Ground flax seeds, and it is delicious. Oh, there are blueberries and cut up apples cooked into the oatmeal. And my wife
Nice.
usually makes a nice portion, so we have a lot in the refrigerator. We also made a recipe in Esselstyn's book, which is called Very Quick Black Bean Chili. I modify recipes to suit my own taste, but there's, do you have Trader Joe's near you?
Yes.
Okay, so they have sun-roasted corn in the frozen vegetable section. There's no additives. It's just a beautiful mix of corn that's roasted as if on a fireplace. And it's got, I put pinto beans. I take the lazy man's way, which is I will get a can of pinto beans, a can of kidney beans, and then different salsas, scallions, onions, and it is. I have people whenever I bake it for a party, they all want the recipe. So it is. I mean, I have barely scratched the surface of using the different recipes in these books. This book, Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, it has about only 125 pages of pretty large type. And there are a lot of stories. There's maybe 2 pages that are kind of challenging scientifically. And so if you have a sleepless night, it's great to turn to those pages because it will put you right out. And they also have 150 recipes in here. And I know the recipes are really good. There's some that are a little more complex, a little easier. That cereal comes from this book.
Do you eat tofu?
Yeah. And I have made a recipe for tofu for chocolate mousse with maple syrup and cacao, and I add a banana to it also. I make smoothies, all that sound with tofu, but I add tofu to a soup that I buy, and I might add vegetables to it as well and cook it. I've made dressings with tofu where it's blended and it provides a nice thickness. It's pretty bland on its own, so it doesn't
Yes,
really
it is.
add much. Yes.
Oh yeah, I eat it all the time.
Yeah.
My husband makes it so fabulously. Do you eat veggie meat, like like veggie
Yeah.
ham and veggie turkey?
Yeah. No, because it's
More processed.
exactly. The body doesn't know how to deal with the processed foods. I mean, I had, it's amazing. The first person who spoke, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name, but that 2015, 7 years ago, was a tough year for me too. I had I had a stroke and a heart attack. Stroke 2 months later, heart attack. And there's a reason why I started going down that tunnel. Well, I'm showing my age.
It's all right.
Yeah. So
We all understand.
I know, I know.
So true. Kim, do you remember what the question was?
Yeah, I think that you were saying that it was
Oh.
hard in 2015,
Yeah,
and we were
yeah. Yeah. So I had, this is why I was bringing it up, because I had 3 stents when I had the heart attack, and the widow's maker was the one that
Yep.
closed up, and
my husband's too.
yeah, and so yeah, when it gets scary, I get good. It's a slippery slope, and with my raging sweet tooth, one of the doctors that I have a lot of respect for says if it's in the house, it's in your mouth. And the thing is,
I agree.
I live with my wife and my stepson right now, and they eat anything they want. Initially, my wife followed my leads to support me, but her father died at the age of 96, and he was still playing golf and folk dancing and gardening. My father, 52 years old. I'm 68 years old now. So it's challenging, and I give myself treats, but I know if I'm not feeling as energetic as I would like to be, which is hard when you've had a stroke, and I deal with something called hypertonicity. So the muscles in my feet, the muscles are in my legs are tight.
Yes.
So yeah, I think the most important thing is to educate ourselves. Doctors, by and large, mostly do not know anything or very little about food.
Yeah.
I have a cardiologist who is vegan, who follows a whole food plant-based diet. And the numbers that I have are really around 110 over 70 often. But that's with the help from the meds. I wish I didn't need meds, but right now I like being around.
Yes. You take a statin.
Yeah, and blood pressure meds. All of our bodies are different. So the friends who would be astonished at the way I eat when I first started learning this, what I was doing wasn't enough because I had such an attachment to pleasuring my taste buds. You can really there are recipes that taste so good. I thought I would be limiting my choice of foods that I can eat, but it's opened up a whole world of different plant-based foods like beans and grains and nuts and different types of pasta and sauces, and there are so many chefs today who publish books or are running websites where there are free great recipes. So it's really been a process of expansion and discovery.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ralph.
Keith.
Ralph.
I've got a curious question, I think. How do you account for ethnic background? I mean, I'm Italian, Sunday sauce and sausage and, all of that. How do you account for that?
Well, I know that friends who came from, they're very proud of being from Italy. They eat a lot of salads, pasta with vegetables. I think that in Italy, people have that same variety of challenges, that no two bodies are the same. But globally, as I said, there are statistics that show that what people eat make a bigger difference in what happens with our bodies. That people who come from a plant-based community, a rural place, not an affluent place, but then move to an affluent culture. Not only did they start assuming the new diet habits of their new home, but they also end up starting to get the same diseases as their new home. So if you've been following a mostly plant-based, or even you've been eating a lot of plants, a lot of vegetables, fruit. I even know that when friends who are sensitive to foods here in America go to Europe, foods that they usually have trouble with, they have no problem when they're staying there, because they're much stricter with what they allow into the food stream in Europe.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Does anybody have any other questions right at the time? That was fantastic, Josh. You know, I think about myself sometimes as you're talking, and I'm not, you know, my wife will tell you I'm not the best at it, and I definitely need to start moving that way for sure. Kim O'Kelly, thank you. We'll see you soon, honey. Good seeing you.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Keith.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome. You're welcome. But we're not done.
What's that?
I said we're not done.
Oh, well, no, she just had another appointment. She had to,
Yeah, great.
she had to early. Yeah, there's a few more things we got to cover here, but any other questions first before I move forward? Or are any of the readers, who are the readers on here that you read with? Anybody?
Dawn has her hand up, and Kaylee, and so let's start with Dawn, and maybe Pat if she wants to jump in.
Yeah, thank you, Keith, and thank you for allowing us to participate and be a contribution, and also be inspired by, you know, everything that you all face every day to keep yourself stroke free. So it's really moving and inspiring. So, you know, I loved Ralph's question, right? I'm one side Italian, one side Spanish, right? So we got the pasta on one side, the rice and beans on the other side, the manja, the come on, eat more, you know, all of that. So, you know, about 4 years ago. So just to be clear out the gate, I have not suffered a stroke. I do not have high cholesterol, hypertension, diabetes. I do suffer from obesity. I should clarify, I don't suffer from obesity. I am obese. Okay. I like to eat. And so about 4 years ago, when I turned 50, I have a very extensive cardiac family history on my father's side. His father in his 40s and my father in his 50s had their first events. And they, you know, both died fairly young, although my grandfather lasted longer than my dad did at 61. When I turned 50, I said, hey, I'm a colon cancer survivor since I'm 32. And that's on the mother's side. And so I was like, well, I should go check out these other genes on this side, right? And see what's happening cardiac wise. And so, you know, keeping the story to the point, lots of testing done. And, you know, he was left scratching his head, you know, the cardiologist, because on paper, I'm a very different person than when you look at me with your eyes visually, right? On paper, you see you look at me, you see my size, you expect on paper to see somebody whose cholesterol's through the roof, A1C for diabetes is over the top, and, you know, on all sorts of medication, and that's not the case. And so he looked at my wife and he said, you know, this is going to be interesting, right? Because everything on my testing was all negative as well that I was just doing with him. So he said, you know, you're going to be one that we're going to be left holding the chart at the bedside, scratching our head like, you know, this is crazy how this happened, because we can't treat her to prevent anything, because there's nothing from a liability standpoint for me to treat, right? So I would be hard pressed to prescribe anything. And you know, he's like, I can only tell you that you got to lose weight, and I'm sure I'm every doctor you hear. And so I said, listen, I've done, and I list the laundry things of how many things I've done. And he said, I really do understand. I get it. You've tried every diet in the world. What I'm talking about is not a diet. I'm talking about, if you want life, and you want longevity, you need to make a lifestyle change.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh, okay, I'm listening. What do you got? And he said, you need to go on first he said a low fat, low cholesterol diet. And I said, okay, like I've done that, right? So tell me about the one that's different. And then he said, no, hold on, sorry. Colon cancer on one side, you have a history of cancer, cardiac on the other side. I'm sorry to tell you, you really need to do whole food, plant-based nutrition. And I said, I'm listening. What does that look like? And he told me what that looked like. And I said, I'm all in. I don't know how to give up fish. I grew up on a canal. I fished for my own fish, right? Like, I'm not really sure. He said, I take the fish, but we'll have to talk about it. Like what fish, how often, etc. If fish is the last piece, no problem. Dairy's got to go. Meat's got to go. Animal fat and protein minus some of the fish that we'll talk about's got to go. I said, okay, I'm all into it. So that was 4 years ago. And so we both became, I would say, vegetarians because we never made it to whole food plant-based. And I wish that Kim was here, but I know she had to leave. Maybe she'll listen to the recording. We became vegetarians. And why were we vegetarians, not vegans, not whole food plant-based? Well, we were still eating dairy. So our cholesterol, was still not, for Pat, it was over the top of normal. Me, it was just under normal, but the triglycerides are elevated. Triglycerides are very connected to sugar. So how much sugar you eat, your triglycerides will go up. So if you're diabetic and you're have a cardiac issue, you will notice that those two usually go together. That's why they often, diabetics are much more prone to having cardiac issues. So, our cholesterol stayed where it was. Pat stayed elevated enough for her to be on statins. And we finally, November 1st, made the actual cutover and went to whole food plant-based. Wow. So I am just amazed to tell you that from November 1st till today, I've lost 42 pounds.
Whoa.
That is just in going full whole food plant-based. And, Pat will share, I think she's lost almost 20. Her BMI is now in the normal range, right? And both of our goals are for 23 is to have food be our medicine. And, my intention is to be off of my allergy medication, my thyroid medication, and all of my supplementation, right? I only want to supplement what actually my body is missing. And that's what will be next. Now, November 1st, we started the transition. And on December 31st, I went to get some blood work done. It was an early check, 7 weeks in. That was a little stingy on my part, but I really wanted to check it out. So I'll tell you that in 7 weeks, my cholesterol went down 12 points. My glucose level in my blood went down 16 points. And my triglycerides went down 28 points. And my A1C stayed right where it's at. That's fair. The A1C is a 3-month measure of your glucose in your body. I was measuring everything at 7 weeks. So if I could just leave you with, it's a hard thing to wrap your head around, to not eat what you used to eat and what you probably grew up with and still love. But you're at some point, for me, my 2 and 4-year-old grandsons is who had me look in the mirror to say, okay, I want to do, Kaylee, you got to go on mute, Kaylee. I want to do Disney with them. And I can't guarantee that I can do Disney with them if I keep eating meat, fish, and chicken.
Yeah. Awesome. Dawn, that was an incredible story, actually. And one of the things that really stood out to me when you were saying all that was a liability standpoint. I just thought that, I mean, it's so true. We all, a lot of us just don't think about it, really. We're in habits. We're in all these different habits that we do. And then you have a stroke or you have something that changes your life in a big way, frankly. and it opens your mind to start thinking about it and making some changes. And I just love that. That was really, really good story. I got to start wrapping up in a second here, and that's why I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just kind of,
No,
yeah.
no problem. Can I just say one more thing that I would just give as a, as a piece of, if you're interested in a great diagnostic and you haven't done it yet, to see what your cardiac risk is, consider a calcium scoring CAT scan. Many insurance companies or Medicaid won't pay for it. It's worth negotiating a rate for. It will tell you what your actual calcium, which equals cholesterol, is in the inside of your vessels. And, I'm fortunate, and so is my wife, to both be a score of 0. The lowest score you could have is no cholesterol, being 0.
Nice.
And that's what keeps the cardiologist happy too. Like, there's nothing I can't even say you have high risk in your CAT scan to treat something with. So
that's great.
yeah, so that's what I would leave you with. Thank you. Thank you, Keith.
So much. Yeah, that was awesome. You guys, very good. Josh, is there anything you want to leave with before I got a couple other things before everybody goes here?
We vote for health or disease with every forkful we eat.
For your party's extension, press 9. For English, press. If you are a physician's office, press 1. If you are
Kay, is that
Kay,
you?
please go on mute, Kay.
Thank you.
The gentleman
Okay.
who's reading it took me off mute. I was on mute. I'm not on mute right now, but that wasn't me.
No, we got it.
No.
Thank you, Kaylee.
That was Carol.
Josh, go ahead. Finish up here, Josh.
Yeah. So keep learning, keep looking. I will provide more information that Keith would be able to pass on to you. And again, it's made a big difference is having a community of people around me. That we have about 6 of us here tonight, and so just empower yourselves any way you can. I'll continue to be in touch with Keith, and let us know what how you're progressing.
Awesome. Josh, that was a really good one. We just a second, Robin, and we got to stay to point. Go ahead. I'll give you 2. Why don't you take 2 minutes, Robin, please, and then we'll wrap up. Robin, can you?
Yeah, hi. I was wondering if the speaker could give us a reading list.
Mhm.
I'm going to get that from Josh, and I'll put it out. Are you getting the email?
I'm getting the periodic emails, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll make sure that's on there because he's talked about a couple already, and there's been some other stuff we've all talked about. So
Cool.
I'll make sure you get that, Robin.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, buddy. I was going to talk about SAO. I just want to really quickly, tell everybody that we do a lot of meetings. We have men's group. We have actually a caregivers group now. I'll tell you what, I'm going to put these things on the email that we send out. If anybody wants the emails, would you just email me personally? The easiest one really that I pay a lot of attention to is Keith@strengthafterstroke.com, Keith@strengthafterstroke.com. And then we'll make sure you get put in the system. So I can get this all out. This went very well, very well. Josh, we want to thank you so much, buddy, for, what you've said and the learning process. I mean, it was much bigger than anticipated, frankly, from my point of view. It was really great. Kay, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about the noise before. As soon as Dawn was talking about a calcium scoring CAT scan, I called the local radiology place on Long Island that does, you guys know Zwanger Passeri, $100 out of pocket for the full exam and the scan. That's so doable.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to register and sign up, but I didn't realize I wasn't on mute. So I apologize. You were hearing press 1 to talk to a doctor, press 2 for a breast exam. So
Kay,
sorry about that, guys.
That's great. Kaylee, go ahead. We've got
Yeah,
1 minute. 1 minute.
30 seconds. Just if there are 2 documentaries that I hope you'll all watch. It's Forks Over Knives. And that's on Netflix, Forks Over Knives. And the other is Game Changers.
I'm
And
pretty sure I've seen both of those. Is it Caitlin?
yes, Kaylee.
Yeah, because my wife is very much into all of this as well. And so, yeah.
I would just add a third that recently came out called Code Blue. Brand new, just
Josh,
filmed in
could I
22.
ask you, bud, if you know all of these, would you email me all this stuff and I'll put it on, you know, the next blast that we put out with this recording, and that way everybody gets it.
Okay.
This is, you know, this is hugely important, actually. Very, very critically important. And I'm talking to myself more than I am anybody else, because, you know, like Don, I need to start changing my ways a little bit here as well. And yes, my kids, my grandkids, everybody's important to me too. And my wife, of course. And so it's not about me. Listen, real quick, any stroke adversaries today or this month? I think that Marsha Moran's is this month. If anybody has her stuff, you know, it's today. Her birthday is today, but I'm not sure if her stroke was today or not, or in this month or not. But anyway, I got a little confused. I'm sorry. Josh, put me in the same kettle there, which we can go together here. The last thing I want to say real quick, and then we'll get out of here, is I would like some ideas on who I need to reach out to for better meetings and for good meetings as we go forward. I think it's really critically important. We've done this in the past. We've reached out. We have really good meetings. The next one that's coming up is vestibular training. But I want to continue to reach out to people and make sure that we're doing a great job. Becca's going to be coming on before long too. Hi, Becca. I apologize to you because it was just before the meeting and I got confused on that. So yeah. Anyway, so anything else from anybody? Great meeting.
Yeah,
Josh,
you did a great job moderating. That was awesome. Keeping the flow going, keeping everybody participating. Very
thank
nicely
you.
done.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Josh, great job. Let's give Josh a good
Thank you.
hand, guys.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
buddy.
you. Yeah.
And we will all talk soon.
And in the chat are the names of the 3 health videos: Forks Over Knives, Code Blue, and Game Changers at the bottom of the chat.
Very good. Thank you so much.
You got it.
All right, guys. Have a
Okay.
great rest of the Tuesday, and we'll see y'all soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Great call. Really great call.
Thanks,
Good.
Marshall.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you,
you.
Guys.
Bye.
Have a great night.
You too.
too.
Thank you.
I don't know how to get out of here. Oh, here we go.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Keith.
you. Appreciate you, Josh. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, same here.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.